And now for more analysis about the G20 finance ministers meeting, we're joined by Mr. Alberto Forchielli, managing partner of Mandarin Capital. So thank you very much, Alberto, for coming on the show today. So let's talk about this meeting. All these leaders are meeting in Turkey on Friday to talk about mostly this headwind that we're facing for global growth. And China obviously is going to be one of the biggest topics there. But what do you think, how much of an impact will China's slowdown have on global economy?
Well, significant, especially on commodity exporting countries in Latin America, Central Asia, Southeast Asia. But already the impact has been felt. It's not that the slowdown is occurring now. Everybody in the West thinks that after the stock market came down, there's been a slowdown. But actually, China has been slowing for a while.
That's right. It's been happening for a while now.
So yeah, there's a great concern about China's slowdown, which to me comes a little later than necessary. People should have been concerned earlier. Then there is a great concern about the overall emerging market economies. They're all like fairly shaky with a lot of capital fly going out. The IMF will be lowering growth estimate for 2015 from 3.3 to 3.1%.
And Moody's just did it, as I reported just now, lowered it to 2.8%. But what do you think, what kind of tools do these leaders actually have in their box to combat China's slowdown?
Not much. They will ask. Basically, they will ask the G20 countries to spend more. But there are very few who actually can, and the few who can don't want to spend more.
So you think
For example, Germany. Germany has a balanced budget.
That's right.
But they are so proud of having achieved a balanced budget, they will never spend more. So this is empty talk. But they will do a talk and says they will encourage G20 countries to spend more. But very few have fiscal space. Then they will ask the Fed not to increase the rates.
We'll talk about that later, but let me press you on a point when you talk about they want to spend more. What do you mean? QE, quantitative easing, more money printing?
Fiscal
spending.
Fiscal spending. So, I mean, increasing public expenditures. But the problem is very few have capacity because most G20 countries are heavily in debt.
Yeah, that's right.
And the few who are not, and Germany is the biggest example, they really don't want to do it.
Right.
And another one who could maybe is England, but they're really...
And politically is not a wise thing to do.
No, even in the U.S., there's the fiscal cliff, and there's a sequester issue, so the U.S. cannot. I mean, so this is empty talk.
Well, what about Chinese government? Should we spend more? Perhaps. We have the capacity to do it. Infrastructure spending.
Yes, but I think it's too much. I think China should find a way to spend more on social programs, more than infrastructure. I really think that it's impossible to invest wisely when you spend so much.
That's true.
And China's been investing 50% of GDP.
For a long time, right? But let's talk about that Fed rate hike that you just brought up. So right now, there's been a very heavy debate. On one hand, we have this global equity rout that really threatens the Fed's ability to actually raise rate. But on the other hand, lots of economists are saying they should just do it because this uncertainty hanging over investors' mind are actually making them more jittery. What do you think?
Ask me, I think they should hire it. It's only 25 points. But the fact is now, the IMF is saying they should not hire it. Everybody is worrying about what's going to happen to the emerging market because more money is going to run out. So there's a lot of responsibility for the Fed. What if they increase and things go wrong? So if I was Mrs. Allen, I would be very careful for those 25 points.
Miss Yellen is very careful.
Yeah, I would be very concerned, even though as an economist I think she should. I'm really concerned about it politically, from the political viewpoint.
Very much so. But do you think as an investor yourself, would a rate hike, if it does happen, would it make you more calm? Like say, okay, I don't have this thought hanging over my head anymore. I know exactly what's going to happen. Would that help?
Yeah, I think the fact that the money costs nothing is creating giant bubbles all over the place.
And it's been 9 years, right?
I mean, it's about time we come to our sense and we realize we can't go on with. We need structural adjustment. We need to make things right. I mean, this whole issue about throwing money from the helicopter like Japan has done for 20 years. It ain't going to fix anything.
Yeah, liquidity trap. They've been trapped there for more than 2 decades now. But let's talk about the possibility of them raising rates. Let's say that does happen, and currency risks, especially emerging market currencies. That's a huge factor that these leaders need to be concerned about, right? Because those currencies have been on a slide, and if the Fed does raise rates, are there any room for these currencies to fall further? If there is the room for them to fall further, what are these leaders prepared to do?
I mean, if they fall further, emerging markets need to raise rates and so slow down economy even further, which is not something anybody wants, and there's going to be a lot of capital fights. So they don't have many options. Emerging markets now don't have many options.
So they're sitting ducks at this point? If the Fed raises rate, they'll just be prepared and their currency will slide further?
Because by the end of the day, emerging markets are not in a position to enforce major structural reforms. India hasn't done them. Modi was supposed to change the world. He hasn't done anything. He hasn't changed the labor law. He hasn't changed the expropriation law. Turkey hasn't done them. Mexico hasn't done them. South Africa hasn't done them. By the end of the day, this emerging market lived on a tremendous commodity bonanza. They need to make structural changes, but none of them is capable of doing it.
Especially
political
hurdles are a really huge wall they need to climb over. Well, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts, Mr. Forchielli, with us. Well, now he's going to stay with us, and there are more discussions to come later. Now, folks.